Hi, I'm Patty Ann Brown, and you are in the strategy room. With a Republican majority in the Senate, President Trump's pick to head the Environmental Protection Agency is expected to pass confirmation on Friday. That nominee, Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt, has sued the EPA more than a dozen times. And that's one reason why Republican Senator Susan Collins says she will not support Pruitt. Collins released a statement saying, quote, "His actions leave me with considerable doubts about whether his vision for the EPA is consistent with the agency's critical mission to protect human health and the environment." Here now to discuss are Sarah Badawi, a senior lobbyist for the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, and Charmaine Yost, a senior fellow at American Values. Thank you both for joining us.
Hi, Patty Ann.
So Senator Collins says Pruitt has sued the EPA on issues of importance to Maine, including mercury controls for coal-fired power plants and efforts to reduce cross-state air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. Charmaine, what is your response to her concerns?
Well, you know, Patty Ann, I think it's really important to lead not with his lawsuits against the EPA, but his repeated statements of support for the EPA. He's given speeches, he's given congressional testimony in which he has said repeatedly that he does support the mission of the EPA. In particular, he's been really clear that he thinks there needs to be a balance in the approach of the EPA. Coming from Oklahoma, being the Attorney General, he has hands-on knowledge of what it looks like on the ground to be advocating for clean air and clean water. And what he sees as the role of the EPA is being the intermediary when you have conflicts between the states. For example, his Democratic counterpart in Arkansas has come out and said that it was terrific to work with Scott Pruitt. So you see him having a track record of bipartisan working together across the aisle on behalf of the environment. So he has really terrific support. We even hear Senator Manchin from West Virginia, who's a Democrat, coming out with words of support. We even see Senator Heidi Heitkamp, a Democrat from North Dakota, who has expressed some of the same kinds of concerns about the EPA that Scott Pruitt has. So I think a holistic look at his record shows that he has a really good, balanced approach to the EPA.
Sarah, your reaction?
Sure. So when Scott Pruitt was the Attorney General in Oklahoma, he effectively closed down the entire enforcement of any EPA regulations within his state and often sided with big oil and big energy companies in a way that undermined Oklahoma farmers. And I think, you know, right now, Trump voters have children that they don't want to get sick with asthma from breathing toxic air or getting cancer from drinking polluted water. And frankly, a lot of these big companies that he's represented are going to hurt many of Trump's own supporters that own farms in critical states throughout our country. So I think the key thing to look at here is when Scott Pruitt had his confirmation hearing before the Senate, he was asked, which EPA regulations do you support? He couldn't name one. When asked if he thought lead in water was bad for children, he wouldn't commit to saying, yes, it's bad for our kids. So I have serious concerns and agree with Republican Senator Susan Collins for planning to vote no against him, because this man has built a career opposing the EPA and everything it stands for.
Charmaine, to Sarah's point about people saying he sides with big oil, there are some Democrats who are trying to delay action on Pruitt until a court decision regarding emails. 2 years ago, a watchdog group had requested access to emails between Pruitt's office and officials at oil and gas companies. Charmaine, what is that all about?
Well, Patty Ann, I'm really concerned that what Sarah has sketched out is a real distortion of Scott Pruitt's record. And just one particular data point that I think is essential is the fact that one of these times when Attorney General Pruitt sent a letter to the EPA on behalf of oil and gas in his state, challenging what the EPA was saying and their measurements of various kinds of things in Oklahoma, it turned out that the EPA was wrong. They did have to adjust their measurements. And so I think we have to look at a holistic approach of the whole picture of what Scott Pruitt has been doing. We're looking for someone to be in the EPA who, yes, supports the EPA, supports their mission, but also has a balanced approach so that we're not seeing job-killing, industry undermining kinds of overreach from the EPA. And that's the kind of thing that also Senator Heidi Heitkamp was concerned about. It is a bipartisan concern of pulling the EPA into balance with the states.
Sarah, final thoughts.
Sure. So I think one important thing to look at here are both EPA directors under the first President Bush and the second President Bush have come out against Scott Pruitt, saying that, well, you can disagree with the way the Obama administration worked with the EPA. Scott Pruitt is an extreme response and somebody who, again, has built a career helping big business, big oil, big energy undermine the EPA and effectively neuter its ability to enforce any of its regulations. And I think when Trump campaigned, he wasn't campaigning for special interests. If anything, he's betraying his own voters and many American farmers by putting someone like Scott Pruitt in charge of the EPA.
He actually has a track record of cleaning up the air and the water in Oklahoma, and so that's important to have on the record as well.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Sarah and Charmaine, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you, Patty Ann.
Thank you.
And for complete political coverage, stay right here on FoxNews.com. I'm Patty Ann Brown. Thanks for watching.